Days turned into weeks. The drought continued to grip the land. The skies remained closed, and the earth grew dry beneath the scorching sun. At the Kerith Brook, where God had faithfully provided for Elijah through ravens, the water level slowly began to fall. Day after day, the brook grew smaller, until finally it dried up completely. Yet even when the brook was gone, God's provision was not. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah. "Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food." Without hesitation, Elijah obeyed once again. He set out on a long journey through the drought-stricken land until he arrived at the gates of Zarephath. There he saw a widow gathering sticks. She looked weary. The famine had taken its toll. Approaching her, Elijah asked, "Would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink?" Despite her hardship, she turned to fetch the water. Then Elijah called after her, "And bring me, please, a piece of bread." The woman stopped. Her heart sank. Turning back, she spoke with sorrow in her voice. "As surely as the Lord your God lives, I don't have any bread. I only have a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and prepare one last meal for myself and my son. We will eat it, and then die." The famine had left her with nothing, no hope, no resources, only enough food for one final meal. But God was about to perform a miracle. Elijah looked at her and said, "Don't be afraid." Those words pierced through her fear. "Go home and do as you have said. But first, make a small loaf of bread for me and bring it to me. Then make something for yourself and your son." The request seemed impossible. How could she give away food she did not have? Yet Elijah continued, "For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain upon the land." The widow faced a choice: trust her empty jar, or trust God's promise. In faith, she chose to obey. She returned home and did exactly as Elijah had instructed. She used the last of her flour. She poured the last of her oil, and she prepared bread. But when she looked again, there was still flour in the jar, still oil in the jug. The next day, there was enough again, and the day after that, and the day after that. The miracle continued. Day after day, week after week, God faithfully supplied food for Elijah, the widow, and her son. The jar never became empty. The jug never ran dry, just as the Lord had promised. In a season of famine, God provided abundance. In a moment of despair, He gave hope. And through one act of faith, a widow discovered that God's resources are greater than human limitations. The God who filled her jar is the same God who provides for His people today. When circumstances say, "There is not enough," God says, "Trust me." And when we place our faith in Him, His provision never fails. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 7 to 16. Jesus is alive, and the Scripture is still alive today.